What's up, guys? Protect here. Just wanted to give an update video on the raised zombie minion instability build that I was talking about in my last two videos and updating for the release of 0.50. I am currently level 94, almost level 95, and I've been having a lot of fun with the build. I think I've kind of tweaked it to the point where I'm happy with it. It's pretty tanky, does a lot of damage. Clear speed's not terrible. It's actually, I feel like it's pretty good. Um, and I've been able to get all the challenges and stuff done with it. It's been a blast. So I'll go through a pretty spooky boss map with a lot of mods. It's kind of a mean looking map here. We're gonna run this and see how the build fares against it. And after that, we'll talk about the build. After
None. cannot allow you to interfere.
So yeah, as you can see, build does okay. Not bad, not bad. So let's talk about it. First, I'll go over the gem supports, then I'll go over the gear and the passive tree. So, starting with the skills. Our main skill is obviously Raise Zombie. We have Minion Instability, Infernal Legion, Feeding Frenzy, Exhaust Pyre, and Execute. I've kind of played back and forth with Execute with like increased area of effect stuff for clear. There's also a runic support gem that increases, like, gives you 50% more ignite damage at the cost of making you have runic mana costs to your build, your character, your stuff. The runic kind of investment was a bit too much for me, and it really only was needed for, like, it only felt good in delirium, like really high end delirium is where it was noticeable. But it's not necessary. So I dropped it for this because it's a really low cost multiplier and a 30% more multiplier on our explosions. Since the zombies explode at low life, it triggers and counts towards this executes more damage on low life modifier, as well as if the monster itself that we're attacking is on low life, it'll proc another 30% more damage. So it's a good support, at least for single target. Zolf's Pyre is, I think, once you get later into the end game and you start really farming tier 16s and you start trying to get some money, or tier 15s even, and you're starting to get more capital, this is kind of your first big investment, in my opinion, that you want to buy for, because it allows your ignites from your raised zombies to benefit from all of the added chaos damage that we provide in the build on top of what the support itself provides. So we are Lich on this character, and we're using the Unholy Might and its increased magnitude per 100 maximum mana modifiers to get a really high effect of this Unholy Might. We've got 4100 mana, so that's around 41 times 4, so it's like 164% increased magnitude of Unholy Might. So it's almost triple. It's probably like in the 80s or 70s. I can't do the math in my head right now, but it's what you kind of would expect. So 70 plus 40, you're hitting at about 110 increase damage taken, extra damage of chaos damage. So you're doubling that. Support gem alone is essentially doubling your Infernal Legion AoE burns. So really good sport, really good for the build. Feeding Frenzy was obviously chosen for the more damage, as well as the faster dying to the Infernal Legion due to the more damage taken. And then obviously these two are pretty self-explanatory. For our support skills and things like that, we're using Mana Remnants as a buff to keep ourselves topped up on mana. Firestorm to proc our infusions that we're using to generate power charges. Since it's one of the oldest heals in the game that can consume infusions of all 3 types at once, it allows us to do it in a single cast, and I like that better than, say, like doing Unleash or something with another skill that consumes the same infusion 3 times. Just because there are times you get stunned and in the middle of the animation for those other skills, and you may only get 2 of the 3 power charges or something like that. And this way, it's like if the skill goes off, you get all 3. That's just the long and short of it. So that's why I chose and opted for this instead of any other skill. I have Living Lightning in this, along with just some random sports. These all don't really matter. The only one that's really noticeable is like Concentrated Area and maybe Withering Touch, but not really. The reason we want these guys is because they give us an extra 10 minions to count towards our Pounce mark, Predator's mark, to ensure that we're always topped off on that 45% more damage taken, considering our zombies are constantly exploding. So we may not have 16 or 15 minions up at a time, which is, I think, what you need for that. It may be less, but basically certain 10 make sure that there's a high amount of that benefit from that Predator's Mark effect going on. We use Devour as well to get us some consecrated ground effect, help us regen life, and also reduce effective curses on us in any given moment or sticky situations. Not to mention, it gives us another source of instant power charge generation versus doing the Verisium cast and then Firestorm. So it's nice. You'll see I go down and there's one more like avenue we have to get power charges in the build. So there's like 3 ways we get power charges, and I like having it. I've tried taking away 1 or 2 of them, and the builds just felt like there was something missing in terms of like there may be a situation where it's like, hey, this might be best for using to get power charges real fast, or this one came in a pinch, or this one felt really good while mapping. Like there's offshoot cases for all of them, so I decided to keep them all in the build. I had the skill slots open for them, so I just decided to stick with it, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think it feels really great. But anyway, the next skill we have is Pounce. We already kind of talked about this. I'm using Uhtred's Constellation mostly because I found it off a drop, and this is strictly basically used for Predator's Mark to get damage on a boss. We move pretty fast, so we don't really need to use it for movement. We do still use it sometimes since we have the 3 stacks of the cooldowns, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. We have Infernal Legion in this because we don't want any other minions out while our zombies are out, in case we need to shred them down, because in our shred we have Minion Pack 2, and because zombies, like, most of their damage comes from the fact that they have this empowered damage multiplier. They actually have a reasonably low amount of life for how much damage they're outputting. So like, for example, if I summon these guys and show you, they've only got like 2200 life, which is standard run-of-the-mill race spectered. That's not like a really beefy boy, so we're able to like help speed up the death process as far as you can see. So especially for those empowered zombies, since they do take less damage, that also elongates how long it takes them to die with the new Infernal Legion after they changed it for this patch. But anyway, that's basically the combo. So we don't want extra minions out because they'll take away from the minion packs damage, so to always ensure there's just zombies for it to take life from. We use Lingering Illusion as our 3rd generator of power charges because it's just situationally like nice. Like, you may be running, say, through packs of monsters that you're not really scared of, which this build, for the most part, unless I'm doing a map like that, or like a really like a scarier list of mods with a delirium encounter, like sometimes those are better. And also in a pinch when you're panicking, you're rolling and stuff to dodge damage, this also helps you give you power charges in a way that's like more reactionary, and like just so you're ready to throw a zombie down when you need to, which it's really nice. Finally, we use Powered by Verisium, Frost Bomb, and Blasphemy and Elemental Weakness. This is part of our generator for the Firestorm and the power charges and stuff that I talked about earlier. It feels really good. I really don't have any complaints about it. It's a little expensive on the ward cost, so I just make sure I have enough ward that I can cast it and it regens to full before I have to cast it again. Frost Bomb, just your standard setup for maximum exposure, shortest amount of time with spell echo, exposure, overabundance, and prolonged duration. And usually that's enough as long as something stands directly on it throughout the entire duration that you get to your max amount of exposure on a monster with it. You don't have to cast it again on them for whatever until they're dead, usually. Our Blasphemy is strictly a defensive setup with Temporal Chains and Enfeeble, with just some increased area of effect. And then we have our Damage Dealing Curse, which is Elemental Weakness with Abiding Hex, Heightened Curse, Erupt Less Life Focus Curse, and then Hex Bloom. And so yeah, that's all the skills. The rotation on bosses that I usually will do is I'll go up to them, engage, and try to be ready to summon my zombies down when they are doing their little RP or whatever, and then I'll throw all my zombies down depending on if I have enough power charges from that cast. Maybe I'll throw another one down if I'm not at full. And then immediately I throw down a curse, throw down a frost bomb, and then usually by that point my cooldown on my powered by Verisium is back up, and I can, you know, start this and throw this down, and then or pounce in between at some point. That way we've got all 12 of our zombies up, we've got the firestorm down on the boss, and it's proccing all 10 of the living lightnings, so we're basically at full stack damage, and then things just evaporate. And so it's really strong. As you can see, that boss had a ton of defensive layers on it, like, and resistance, life, all kinds of stuff, and it still fell over relatively quickly. One thing I did forget to note about the elemental weakness is we use Abiding Hex to consume a power charge, and that's mostly in mapping situations. Since we have an infinite curse duration anyway with our Ascendancy, we don't really care about that. What we really were doing it for is so that it triggers the consuming of a power charge, because it's 550 mana, pretty expensive. Don't want to be spamming that during a mapping session, because in some situations that may be the difference between you having full life or full HP pool and not, as you can see. However, if we throw our power charges on, we do the same thing. Oh look, it doesn't really move until we're out of power charges again. Why is that? Well, we are using this wheel up here for Well of Power. It gives us 2%, 2%, 2%, and 5% of our maximum mana is instantly recovered when you consume a power charge. This node and this wheel alone is the entire justification for this build even being a thing, because if you didn't know, Raise Zombie is very expensive as a skill as it gets higher up in level. It's a big part of why the build sucks sometimes to try and get working if you don't have this sort of generator for it. Especially when you're doing stuff like I am, where you're mana stacking and you use Eldritch Battery to double those costs on top of what are the base costs. So yeah, very expensive. However, if you have power charges in this build and you have enough mana, you know, you don't even notice it happening. As long as I've got power charges, I can cast these guys all day long and there's no issues whatsoever. So that's mana problem solved. But let's get more into the gear and the passive tree. So actually, I think I'll go out of order. I'll go to the passive tree first. So all the passive tree is, like I already spoke about a little bit, we do the curse wheel or the curse wing and the unholy might buff wing of the ascendancy for Lich, and just get those both for an additional curse, infinite curse duration, yada yada yada. We use we get every minion damage and minion life node on the tree that we can reach, like, without going too far out of our way. And we then also prioritize things like these mana damage taken as mana before life nodes. We get this so that we can get to 12 zombies, so that we can cast 4 times and have 12 and not have to not be risking any kind of over summoning shenanigans. So this just is a feel good kind of node. You can probably anoint this if you really wanted to, but we use our anoint on our amulet for flow of time, or honestly flow of life, whichever one. Because we have a lot of recoup in this build as mana damage, or damage taken as mana. I think we're at like 87% of the damage we take is recouped as mana. So having some sources of this recoup speed that they've added this patch as definitely feels really good. We get to the mana node up here. We get this wheel, this gigantic following. This is like the first thing when you're leveling this build. This is like you rush this node because it's instant. It's essentially like you not only get like 20% more damage, you also get 20% more life. So it's like 2 more damage multipliers on top of each other, which is really, really good. We go out of our way to get these jewel sockets everywhere around us that we can get, and we have very specific things that we use them for. For example, we use a From Nothing jewel to get Bulwark. down here, so we can get this warlord leader node. This is really nice for us. It's perfect. It gives us everything we want. We want more presence area, more damage. Like this warlord leader's crazy. This is a great node. So, and bulwark's a great way to get a cheap option to get it. The other jewel sockets, we obviously get Prism of Belief, because why not? Get Megalomaniac, and all we really care about is either getting Flow of Life or Flow of Time, whichever one you didn't anoint, and then whatever else, because it's hard to get really 2 nodes in a row without Megalomaniacs for items, things you really want without it being super expensive. So we do that. Obviously, I grabbed these wheels over here for a little bit of life recoup, because not all of our mana, or not all of the damage we take is going all to our mana. We have a little bit going to our life, so as long as we make sure that our life recovery or recoup that we get is higher than whatever that number is of damage taken as mana, then we're golden. I think I'm still under that a little bit. That's why my next 2 points are going to be going for... I think I'm actually going to go here. I'm going to go to Heart Tissue. I haven't decided. I was kind of originally leaning towards going towards this to get the extra recoup speed, but this might be the better play, because then it actually, you know, I'm truly fully recovering my life whenever I take damage. But anyway, what else was there? Flesh Crucible is something I decided to get my 3rd curse, since I didn't want to have to spend a bunch of points to go travel to it from there. And we don't really care about our life pool in this build since we're Arena, so this was the perfect choice for my node, or my jewel here. And then what else? I think that's actually it for the jewels. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it. Like I said, get on the weapon swap, we do invest in on the shape-shifted form. We get Canal of the Hunted to get some bleed immunity and some main immunity. It's really nice. We then get some Curse Magnitude effectiveness, just for some extra defense. Since we don't have a shield in the weapon swap to our druid, our shape-shifting form, we lose like 700 or 600 base mana, or mana in our mana pool. So that's, you know, to help kind of overcome that, we try to just get a lot more effectiveness of the curses while we're in that form, and it is noticeable when you're in maps. And then everything else that we get on the swap is just extra power charge generation. So in our shape-shifted forms, we have a maximum of 7 power charges, and that's, if you generate that many in that form and then go back to your human form, you still have them. So as long as you get 7 power charges as a, like, say for example, you devoured a bunch of corpses and got 7 total power charges, when you switch back to human form, you do have those 7 and they'll persist. So it's really nice. That particular interaction is nice for mapping when we're just running through open area zones, because we can throw our zombies down in every direction around us and not really care about running out of power charges for a good little bit of time. And so that usually feels pretty good when that gets running and going. I think that's it for the passive tree. The gear, just a +4 minion staff with increased damage, minion life, and the magnitude of damaging ailments. That's new with this patch, and along with the allies presence damage socket. Focus is the +2 minion focus with high energy shield, high mana. This is actually not that bad to buy for us. I mean, it's still expensive, but it's not as bad because we don't need an extremely high energy shield top end base. We're looking for a good hybrid of high mana and high energy shield, because that's effectively what we're looking for. Like, you could find and hopefully maybe possibly a like 400 or something focus, but it's probably super expensive, whereas this one's a lot cheaper. So yeah. Boots are just resistances, movement speed, mana, and we runic ward them to help flesh out our need for runic ward in the build. Gloves, same deal, you know, some sort of high level hybrid base. I feel like those usually have really good high runic ward values when you transfer them. But you're looking for just mana, intelligence, because that's more mana, and then your resists. This is actually like the weakest piece in my gear set, and I probably should think about getting it upgraded, since I've upgraded everything else. Midnight Braid, kind of mandatory. It's a huge source of damage taken recouped as mana. It's the best source of it you can get in the game. Kind of self-explanatory. Cloak of Defiance is the same deal. Best source of damage taken was for mana before life, and in the game, along with the chest piece body armor rune, gives you damage taken from mana before life. You're looking at it. This is 65%. So it's the majority of our damage taken as mana before life stat. We use dream fragments for the freeze immunity and percent more mana or increased mana, since there's so few sources of it in the game. This being as much as it is crazy, and it's basically mandatory. And also being immune to chill and frozen is very nice, because chilled ground in this game is crazy. Then our second ring is just, I actually had to craft this myself because there was nothing like it on the trade site. But I bought a ring that had high dex, high int, and high mana, along with some regen. And then I got an otherworldly collarbone after successfully doing my increased mana perfect, essence craft on it, and it didn't remove any of these mods that I liked. And then I finished off the ring with a desecrate from that otherworldly collarbone, along with some echoes, and just prayed that I got the magnitude. Otherwise, I just buy another ring, since the echoes of light are just still too expensive. And these, you can find rings with the mods that I like, that we needed for this, pretty on the treat, like under 10x each for each attempt, so it's not that bad. Amulet, can't really say the same for this. This is just expensive in general. Gives plus minion skills, res, and mana, and the energy shield are all highly sought after for the most part, minus mana. And I'm going to be continuing to, craft this until I get percent mana as my desecration. So that's the project I have left to do. And then the helmet's just your basic, minions, all skills, res, and high energy shield / high mana hybrid helmet. And I use the power charge gain an additional power charge when you generate a power charge rune in this helmet, because when you do Powered by Verisium, I think it's rolling it individually for each power charge you generate. So this stat's actually a lot more powerful than it appears on face value. And so usually what'll happen is when I cast this Firestorm from no power charges, I'll be at 4, even though it only generates me 3 technically. So there's that. And our runes and everything just range from, they just are fixing our resistances or increasing our armor, yada yada yada. Our talisman is just a high attack speed talisman with 2 spirit gem support sockets in it to help us make sure we reach that magic number we need to keep our blasphemy up between forms, as every other thing that we have reservation for spirit on the caster setup is dedicated to that, like mana remnants and things like that. And actually, we do end up having enough spirit in the end to have lingering illusion as well, which does feel really nice to have on both forms. And I keep crashing, so, well, I didn't really have anything much more to add to talking about the build. I think I just went through everything, but I will end off running a regular map so you guys can get a feel for like what a normal map run looks like for the most part, and then I'll send off on the video. So thanks for watching.
This is all we have. As expected.
Death is my power to wield. A good find. Don't be shy. Death is my power to wield.
Darkness descends, and with it your end.
A gift from fate.
Alright, I won't subject you to more. I think you got the idea. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Oh, real quick, before I forget. We use a stun avoidance charm. I found this, using it just now to test out. Otherwise, you'd use a grounding one for shock, and then just an ignite charm. Like, it doesn't matter what this is. Just something that will grant you a night immunity. In fact, you might do better with a something like this with these stats versus the unique I'm using. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching.